Hey everybody, welcome to Multifamily Mastery right here with the best ever CRE show. I'm your host, John Casmon. Super excited to be here today. And I'm coming at you live by myself for a solo conversation. And listen, I want to share something that I'm seeing a lot, and I'm having a lot of conversations with other investors. And I think it's really important to just talk about this. And real estate investing, especially when you're in the single family space, it's really solo, right? You're doing it by yourself. You're finding deals and you're growing your portfolio. But when it comes to commercial real estate, specifically multifamily, we hear people say it over and over. It's a team sport. But here's the aspect of the team sport that we don't talk about. And it's the mindset. And more importantly, it's the coaching. It's the mental toughness. It's the things that have nothing to do with the actual investing. And let me give you an example. I was talking to one of my coaching clients late last week, and he reached out to me to get some advice on a property he was looking to acquire. Now, for proper context, he and I haven't talked in a couple of months. And the last time we talked, he was pretty much done with investing. He had decided that this was too problematic and he had a lot of issues, and he just didn't think it was worth his time. So let me back the story all the way up, okay? He had came across a 6-unit property. He was investing in this property, and, this was a kind of a co-living situation. So he had multiple tenants who were living under the same roof, and he was having a really hard time with both attracting and retaining the residents. He had one who was problematic, which is part of the reason everybody else kept leaving, but he also was just having a hard time monetizing this. And it's in that in-between space where it's too small to really be profitable if you bring in a third-party manager, but it also required a lot more of his effort and time than he was anticipating. So he was ready to just walk away. He didn't know if he should sell this property back, even though he had only owned it for a couple of months, or what he should do. And in fact, he didn't even reach out to me. I just kind of reached out to say, hey man, I heard you closed on this, and I haven't heard anything from you since. What's going on? So we started to have this conversation, and I learned that he was really just getting stressed out managing his property. He felt like he had made some mistakes. He didn't really know how to get out of the situation, and he felt it was too small to really bring to me and to have a conversation. And I think this is the point where many investors fall into this trap, because we all have pride and we have ego, and we want to do things our way, and we want to only show people the highlights, on a post that just closed or just delivered X return to investors. And the truth is, most of us go through ups and downs on these deals, right? There are days where everything is, really good. And there are days where it's a challenge, days where, more tenants than you expected move out, or your vacancy is higher, or you got to turn some HVAC systems that you weren't planning on replacing. You got a roof leak, or, water damage, or whatever the case may be. And the costs just start to pile up, and it can stress you out. It happens. It happens to all of us. But some of us internalize it and hide it, or we only talk about the highlights. So our listeners and other folks who are following, they just think it's supposed to be easy. Or you're not supposed to get emotional, you're not supposed to care, you're not supposed to have doubt. And that's simply not true. Every investor I talk to, they have challenges. The difference, though, is the ones that are committed, the ones who have success, they don't let those doubts or those fears or those challenges stop them from moving forward. And in this situation, when I was talking to my client, he was ready to let this situation stop him from moving forward. So we had to break it down and really understand what was the real issue. Because the good thing about real estate is you can address most of the issues. Now, sometimes you may not like the answer. The conclusion may not be one that is favorable for everybody, but there's usually a solution, right? And in his case, he had to be willing to go to take less profits to bring on someone else who could really manage this property. But I spoke to him again last week. So much better. His headspace was night and day compared to where it was, because he let that go. He let that pressure go, and he realized, you know what? This is not a headache I'm willing to deal with. It literally was a headache. It was stressing him out. He was not getting sleep over it. He was, losing money, and he really had to let that go to bring in someone who had more experience, more knowledge of the market, and had the ability to navigate that landscape to bring him where he was trying to go. And that's key. You've got to ask for help. And sometimes the answer is as simple as reaching out to a coach or a mentor or a trusted advisor or a partner or another investor, someone else who has been there, who has done that and understands how to navigate it because they've had to navigate similar situations. But again, that pride and that ego, it doesn't allow us to humble ourselves all the time to ask that question or to say, hey, I'm struggling here. How can I get help? And that's something that we've got to do a better job of, everybody, as an investor. If you're looking to scale your portfolio, part of what you have to do is recognize when those obstacles appear. Instead of you running into it 20 times in a row, ask somebody who's already cleared that obstacle. They can probably guide you and tell you, hey, there's a little door on this side, or just walk around this way, or you know what, use this device to get over it. And that's what you really need as an investor. But you've got to raise your hand and ask for the help. This is not school. You don't have to do your own work. Ask for help. People have done it. We've got our multifamily mastermind community. We're looking to bring like-minded individuals just like this to come together to help each other overcome these challenges. So if that's something you're interested in learning more about, we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But that's so important to make sure that you're surrounding yourself and you're talking and you're active with other operators, because you can very easily get into this mindset where you psych yourself out. So here's the other thing that happens too. So I was talking to him about where he wanted to go next, because at that moment when I talked to him before, he was ready to retreat. He was already thinking about, I'm going to sell this and take the money and put it over here. And you want to make sure that you don't lose focus on your goals, because his goals hadn't changed. And his goals still required not necessarily multifamily, but multifamily was absolutely the best tool for his situation to help him achieve his goals. And that's where I think it's important too, to separate the emotional side of it and the frustrations that come with it, to say, hey, have my goals changed, or am I giving up on my dreams? Because that's really the conversation you're having. Are you giving up on your dreams? Are you giving up on your goals? Are you throwing in the towel saying, you know what, I'm just going to settle for an average life, or I'm just going to settle to work until I'm 65 years old? Or you know what, we're not taking that dream vacation. You know what, college is overrated. Maybe my kid can go to a state school or somewhere else, right? If that's what you're doing, if you frame it up in the right context, I think it changes the way you think about the decisions, right? Because we're giving too much power to the circumstances as opposed to focusing on the things that we can control. And I've gone through it as well. I've had times where, I'm growing a portfolio, we're doing things, we're kicking ass, we're crushing it, and boom, you get hit with something you weren't expecting. And it can shake you to your core. When I was first starting out and scaling my portfolio, I was also starting to flip houses on the side. No experience as a house flipper, by the way. But, I saw the people doing it, and I was smart enough to say, hey, I don't have the experience. Let me partner with someone else. Truth is, I picked the wrong partner. Didn't do a good job of vetting the individual. They had a lot of showmanship in what they were doing. The numbers seemed a little fuzzy to me, but I talked to other investors that had worked with them. They had a good experience, and I kind of, just move forward based on that. And I got burned on those deals, lost money on those deals, and it hurt for a while. It hurt, and it made me question and challenge my abilities as an investor. Maybe I wasn't as good as I thought I was. Maybe I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. Clearly, I didn't know what I was doing in this space, and the red flags are there. I chose to ignore them. And it's easy to blame that individual. And I think at that moment, I kind of did. I'm like, oh, this person messed this up. But I don't gain anything from that. Even if that statement is true, it doesn't help me, right? You got to take accountability and responsibility, because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's impacted. And I think it is really important to take ownership of the things you can't control. And part of that ownership comes back to relationships and networking and connecting with other people to write that, to get with the right individuals who can help navigate you down the right path. As I reflect back on me flipping, the biggest issue was I knew what my numbers needed to be, and I gave all my trust to this other person simply because they had done it more times than me. Even though I knew where the red flags were from all of my research, I had book knowledge. They had, real world application. And for me, I kind of said, okay, well, this guy clearly knows more than me because he's actually doing it and I've just read about it in the book. Well, you know what? The people who wrote about it in the book wrote about it in the book for a reason because they did it. And sometimes you don't know where those red flags are as an investor, especially if you're new to the space, which is why it's so important to listen to others and to ask questions. It's not to say I wouldn't have done those deals again, but when I asked tougher questions, I did not get the responses that I was expecting to hear, and that should have been my red flag and my warning. And I know a lot of investors right now are in deals that are not panning out, they're not working as well, and they're questioning whether or not you should be in multifamily. And I will tell you, multifamily really hasn't changed. Investor sentiment absolutely has changed. Interest rates certainly have changed. You know, taxes and all those other things, they have changed, but the multifamily fundamentals have never changed. And the problem is so many people treated multifamily like it could never go down, and they didn't anticipate what could happen in the marketplace, that there was a false sense of bravado and protection and insulation, but we kind of ignored some basic underwriting fundamentals or some basic business planning, and those things have derailed deals. And again, it happens. That's business. That's investing. Like, it's a part of it. However, it doesn't mean that investing is wrong or bad or multifamily is a bad investment. It just means that business plan for that particular property in that market at that time did not work. You learn from it. You grow from it. You get better. But if your goals have not shifted, you may look at it and say, you know what, maybe multifamily is not the right vehicle for me going forward. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But if your goals have not changed, whether it be retirement, passive income, creating financial freedom or flexibility to travel, whatever it is, if those goals haven't changed, you got to treat this like it's just a play in a game or a turn in a board game, right? It's just something that happened. You know, sometimes you get that card and you got to go to jail and don't pass go and don't collect $200. Or sometimes it's, you got to go down that slide. That's part of it. Part of investing is sometimes you got to step back. Every successful investor, they have these stories. It's part of their journey. But if your end game hasn't changed, you got to stay on that path. And that's something I have to remind myself of too, because it's easy to get up when the days are up and things are great. But there are days that we struggle. There are days where we had deals where we're not able to do distributions. And it's frustrating for me. And I know it's frustrating for investors. And it's not the kind of, operator we want to be. But I take pride in, how we operate in that situation, how we communicate, making myself accessible, following up, doing everything we can to learn from the situation, take the information that's available and make the best decisions for our investors and the investment. And that is something that comes with time, comes with some humility, comes with patience, and it comes with experience. And I would encourage anyone who's listening to this, who's going through a little challenge right now, is, there's that don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, which I never understood that quote, but I get it. But that's the situation, right? You can't just look at an individual investment, even as a series of investments, and say this doesn't work, when it's worked for hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other people over the years. We know real estate investing works. We know multifamily investing works. We know there's various strategies that can work, but you got to figure out what works for you and who are the right people to align yourself with. But don't allow the challenges of today to impact your future and your tomorrow, because those challenges can be overcome. We've got a 81 unit deal in Florence, Kentucky. We experienced challenge after challenge after challenge after challenge on that property. I mean, we bought that thing right when interest rates were low. We ended up doing a bridge debt. Interest rates, I feel like they shot up the day after we signed the paperwork, man. I mean, it was within at least 30 days, the rates started to go up. And, at first it was fine. We could manage it. And then it got to be pretty high, and very shortly it hit our rate cap. So the rate cap kicked in. We had a fire at the property, which was problematic. We had a number of Section 8 tenants, and the way our loan was written, we had to we had to lower the percentage of residents who were on Section 8. When we did our initial inspection, we had staffing issues, went through property management issues, construction costs and renovation budgets way over what we projected. Lots of challenges there, right? But stuck with it. We stuck with the business plan and we continued to pivot and change and adjust. And we were able to push rents much higher than what we initially projected. We were able to drive way more revenue than we were initially able to project. And because of that, we were able to refinance and to get into longer permanent debt. We're able to change out the property management and get a team in place that can help us at least settle the asset and get the asset performing. We're able to do a lot of things. We picked a great market where that market was doing well, even despite all the changes and challenges that other markets were seeing. So you kind of have to keep learning and learning real time. When you underwrite that deal initially, quite frankly, the market's going to change the next day. There's information that you have, but it's a real time breathing, economic thing where the rents are coming up, the leases, the people, it's a people business. And anytime you have a people business, it's going to change. Someone's going to quit, someone's going to move out, someone's going to get married, someone's going to move in. That's any kind of people business. So because of that, it's really important for us to control our mindset. And because we're able to do that and to stay flexible and fluid and adjust based on the new reality of that property and that business plan, we're able to drive some great growth and great success. So we're, excited about that deal and the future there. But I think it's just really important to have the right mindset, because if you can be resourceful, it opens up the doors for you to be successful. So stay to it. If you're working through a deal, going through some challenges, going through some struggles, lock in and take a step back and say, okay, well, hey, has my goal changed? Is this a temporary situation? What's the real problem? And can I address that problem? I think it's just going to make it better for you to see the trees from the forest and get a better grasp of what you are really trying to do, particularly when the market's tough and you're not getting the results you want to see. So listen, keep grinding as an investor. And if we can help, we are building out our multifamily mastery community. We would love to see you a part of it. In the meantime, make sure you're active on the best ever community page, where we're talking about just different things, everything multifamily investing and everything else. And of course, you got to make sure you get your tickets to the best ever conference coming up here. I'm excited to be there again. BEC 10. It's going to be a great event. I expect to see you all and have a great time. Talk to you soon. Take care.